Painting that I started several years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I never could finish it. And I liked the composition of it, I liked the energy of it, but I couldn't make it look the way I wanted it to look. It just wasn't gelling. So when I first came back to painting after a long time away, I would always paint on these student grade canvases. They're really thin. And then as I progressed on, I stopped buying those and started painting on the nicer canvas, which is able to be framed. These are very difficult to frame. So I have a whole bunch of these, like practice paintings or paintings when I first started out that I took to a certain point and then couldn't, I don't know, they just were what they were. And I have a very small space here. I can't store them all here, so they are all stored in my basement, which is not a dry basement. And Tracy recently said to me, you know, you should really go down there and look at those paintings because they're going to get ruined. And so if you want to save them for any reason or just repaint them, or you need to get them out of there. And so I went down there actually canvas hunting, and I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find old canvases and just gesso over them and use them for practice, or, you know, just painting in between paintings. But I couldn't gesso over this one. I thought, I've got to try to save this painting. So I don't know yet if I can save it. I'm trying, and I think it's better. I've been working on it. I worked on it for several hours yesterday, and I definitely think it's better. It's looking better than it did. It's still not where I want it to be. It's a painting that, I don't know, I think it exists on a couple of different levels. Obviously, it is Mary Magdalene and Jesus. It's also the union of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, that coming together. It's also a painting about spiritual sight and seeing with our eyes closed, and the deeper form of seeing that we don't utilize our physical eyes, but using our spiritual eye. So those are kind of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm working on it. You know, one of the things that happened in the original composition that I never corrected was that her face is large, and I kept it that way because I think the painting is so much about her. It's so much about her, the experience that she's having in this moment. I've done some layering of stencils that is kind of showing through, but I'm not sure. I feel like there's still a lot of open, kind of blank space in this painting that's not speaking yet. And a lot of the color, it's so uniform in color. I'm noticing this morning that his face is a little yellow. It's a little more yellow than I wanted it to be. So I think I'm going to come in with this portrait pink on his face a little bit to kind of tone that yellow down. Everything that I paint, every time I'm painting, I'm experimenting, and rather than, you know, textbook painting where you would make your color wheel and blend colors and know exactly what you're doing before you go onto the canvas, that's no fun for me. I just want to experiment and play and see what happens on the canvas, which means that sometimes things don't turn out the way I want them to, and sometimes it means canvases get gessoed over. I'm really hoping to save this one though. So anyway, that's what's going on in the studio today. I'm dressed for yoga, which I'm going back to yoga today after I have been away from yoga for a couple of weeks because I had an injury, and yesterday was my first day of being like pain-free, and so I'm really excited to go back today. I'm kind of moving, I think I'm moving my work schedule a little bit so that I'm painting earlier in the day and really having the morning and the first part of the day be my work time. So anyway, I'll check back in with you at some point with this painting. Okay, so here we are with this painting do-over. And I thought I would just kind of show you what's happened and what I'm feeling good about and what I'm feeling not so good about. I'm liking this area of her third eye. I feel like there's something else that needs to go on with her skin, but I'm not sure what yet. These beings, these two faces appeared here, and I'm really liking that, loving the way that that's working. I also put in these symbols. This is a kind of a Buddha or Kuan Yin figure, which represents peace to me. There's another little being looking out down here. The lotus and lotus pod is something that shows up in my paintings a lot. The lotus is a highly symbolic flower. It symbolizes purity, but also the fact that the lotus is rooted in the mud and then comes forth out of the mud of attachment and desire into this spiritual purity. And there's another pod over here. I like these images. I'm not sure that I feel like it's working yet with the composition of the painting, so I'm not sure that they're going to stay. I'm liking what's happening in here in this section. I'm thinking something else is going to go on. Up here, I like his face, I like his hair, I like what's happening with him. I think I'm moving into a section now, or a period now with this painting where I have to really bring in some other small elements to make it more cohesive, and to have a better, what I think of as a narrative flow. So I stepped onto a path of spiritual exploration probably about 20 years ago. I mean, in earnest, I mean, you know, really reading a lot of books and thinking about my spiritual life and my spiritual self. And at some point that led me to doing a lot of work around fear, around the concept of fear. But mostly what I was dealing with was anxiety, kind of surface level fear. The family and ancestral stories that I had inherited, things I had learned and absorbed about worry and about how love manifests as worry, how, you know, if you love someone, then you worry about, you come up with all of the worst case scenarios of every bad thing that could happen, and I had to undo a lot of that kind of thing. Anxieties around driving, anxieties around just being in the world. But what I think of really as surface level fear, it's kind of fear that you can be logical about, really, and talk yourself out of it. And becoming aware of the family history and becoming aware of what did I learn from my family that has not, in fact, served me. What do I need to undo in the DNA? What chain do I need to break here? In the current energies that we are feeling and what's going on with me personally, I find myself once again dealing with fear, only this time it's a deeper level of fear. It's more primal. It's my deepest fears, the fears that are personal, that I have carried my whole life. And I'm looking at those fears and I'm looking at how they have held me back or blocked me from having the life that I could have, the relationships that I could have, the experiences that I could have, that have the potential for those things has always been here, but I've blocked them through fear. I've been really being honest with myself about what my deepest fears are and what actions have I taken to try to prevent situations that I don't want, or more accurately, to prevent myself from being hurt. And if you think about it, I think most of the things that we do or want, we want things because we believe that having them is going to make us happy, it's going to make us feel better, and we avoid certain things because we want to avoid pain and suffering. So when I look at my deepest fear, what I see is a fear of truly being known, of being afraid that if people really knew me, if they knew the whole me, I would be rejected by them, that I would not be loved. And there is the thing, right? Like that's the little nugget, is the desire for love. And I'm thinking about that as I'm working on this painting, because the energy of this painting, I think what's really coming forward here is divine love, and the love that is available to all of us in every moment, because it is the love of God. And in this painting, it's represented by the union of the masculine and the feminine, and so there's a relationship here that is very personal, but it's also global. So I'm integrating these white pieces a little bit better by coming in with just a little bit of pigment on top, and in this case the purple that mirrors a little bit of the purple that's in her third eye. In other paintings that I've done, I've really liked the stark white symbols painted on top of the image, and in this painting I wasn't loving that as much, and that's why I muted them back with a little bit of pigment. This painting for me is taking on a really dreamlike quality that I like, and there's a suggestion of stars or the cosmos that I would really like to play up here, and I might want to put in some kind of sun or moon or celestial bodies sort of in the sky. I feel like it's coming into focus. I feel like I'm getting closer, and what I'm thinking about personally, as I'm thinking about my own stories and my history, is a divine union within the self, and really integrating all of the pieces of myself. And you know, that fear of being seen, I don't think that really means that I have to tell every thought that's in my head or tell every part of my story in every moment, but that I have to accept those stories, that I have to come into acceptance of who I am and what I've lived. And in fact, I have to learn to love all of that, to love every experience and embrace it, and see how everything that's happened up until now has brought me to this place. A painting is so much like life, all the layers on top of one another, and the experimentation. You try things and sometimes they turn out differently than you'd hoped and you wish that you hadn't done them, and sometimes they turn out to have a little surprise in them that you didn't even plan, but is exactly what needs to be there. And I think maybe a painting itself is a lesson in acceptance. Maybe this is one that I'll work on forever. Maybe it'll never be complete.